the silver jubilee of the World Sustainable Development Summit. For 25 years, WSDS has stood as India's premier platform for shaping global discourse on sustainability and climate action, bringing together leaders, thinkers, and change makers from across the world. My name is Tarishi Kaushik, Research Fellow working at TERI, and it is my privilege to serve as your MC for this session's proceedings. The urgency for transformative action has never been clearer. The first global stocktake shows that global emissions must fall by 43% by 2030 to stay within temperature goals. Meanwhile, only 35% of SDG targets are on track, with many slowing and some even reversing. Incremental change is no longer sufficient. The interconnected challenges of climate, development, equity, and resilience demand systemic shifts, long term vision, and leadership that can deliver transformation at scale. Before we begin, I would like to make a brief safety announcement. We are gathered this evening at the Taj Palace in the Durbar Hall, located on the ground level of the building. This hall has 4 exit doors, 2 exit doors at the front side, leading to the assembly areas Raja Bagh and Rani Bagh through the banquet glass doors. 2 fire exits at the back side of the dais, leading to the staff gate through the service corridor. There is no mock drill planned for today, but all hotel associates are trained to handle any emergency situations. In case of an emergency, we request you to remain calm and follow their instructions. Before we proceed with the session, I want to take a moment to share something powerful. This year, in partnership with Cool the Globe, we can all take real climate action right here, right now. Download the Cool the Globe app for free, join the WSDS community, and complete simple, sustainable tasks during the summit. The top 10 participants on the leaderboard will be recognized as our most sustainable delegates. Let us truly walk the talk together. Thank you. Also, ladies and gentlemen, now we have an exceptional lineup of speakers for today for this important session on future tech for people, planet, and prosperity. And we are truly privileged to hear from them today. At a time when innovation must align with inclusion and sustainability, this session will explore how emerging technologies can be harnessed responsibly to serve people, protect the planet, and drive shared prosperity. The discussion will focus on scalable solutions, enabling policy ecosystems, and collaborative pathways to translate technological potential into real world impact. We are just waiting for the minister, sir, to arrive. It is now my pleasure to introduce our distinguished panelists and invite them to the stage. Shri Sarbananda Sonowal, Honorable Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways.
OBE. OBE is like only comma OBE. OBE is like Padma Shri होता है ना वैसे यूके गवर्नमेंट का तो इंट्रोड्यूस OBE Charles Oakley OBE. हाँ Ogleby is the right pronunciation. ये last name है and this is his like आदमी होता है ना aviation से Dr. Charles Ogleby OBE.
We have the Honorable Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Shri Sarbananda Sonowal, sir, with us. Sir, we are deeply grateful for your esteemed presence at the WSDS Summit. Namaskar, sir. Chair and moderator for this session, Mr. R.R. Rashmi, Distinguished Fellow Terry. Ms. Ana Claudia Marinero Centeno Rosbach, Executive Director, UN Habitat. May we have a huge round of applause? Thank you. Mr. Amitabh Kant, ex-Sherpa G20 India and former CEO Niti Aayog. We also have Mr. Ashish Khanna, Director General, International Solar Alliance. He will be joining us shortly. Mr. Shankar Iyer, Director, VBU Transportation, Smart Cities and Sustainable Infrastructure, Johnson Controls, India. Professor Deo Prasad, Distinguished Professor, University of New South Wales, Sydney. Mr. Naveen Ehlawat, President and Head, Sustainability and Decarbonization, Jindal Steel Limited. Dr. Charles Ogleby, OBE, Executive Director and Co-founder, Ocean Energy Pathway. Mr. Vineet Adarkar, Vice President and Head, Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India. And Mr. Sudhir Pathak, Chief Science and Technology Officer, Hero Future Energies. I would now like to invite the Honorable Minister to deliver the address, ministerial address. That size.
Hey, Amit. Yeah. Yeah. Namaskar. Today, I feel honored to be here because this event is very meaningful for the global family, We want to survive on the planet Earth with comfortability, with sustainability. I believe the noble cause involved in this particular journey is very, very important to all of us to have better understanding. Today, in this specious occasion, we have the presence of former G20 Sherpa and former CEO Niti Aayog, respected Amitabh Kanji, Madam Ana Claudia Rosbas, Executive Director, UN Habitat, Dr. Biba Dhawanji, Director General TERI, senior representatives from the Energy and Resources Institute, global leaders from industry, multilateral institution and academia, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to all of you present here today. It is a privilege to address this high-level plenary on future tech for people, planet and prosperity at the Silver Jubilee edition of the World Sustainable Development Summit 2026. I congratulate TERI for convening this globally respected platform for dialogue and action. The theme of WSDS 2026, Transformation, Vision, Voices and Values for Sustainable Development, align perfectly with India's maritime journey under the visionary leadership of our noble Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji. Over the last 11 years, India's port and shipping sector have undergone a structural transformation from capacity expansion to efficiency gains and now to sustainability leadership. Let me briefly share the scale of this transformation. We have doubled our major ports capacity in last 11 years. Now we are developing Badawan mega ports and Galathia Bay transshipment ports, outer harbor at Tuticorin ports, Tuna Tikra at Kandla ports, etc., targeting 10,000 million metric ton per annum ports capacity by 2047. Cargo handle at major and non-major ports has increased from 1,052 million metric ton in 2014-15 to 1,594 million metric ton in 24-25, a 52% rise. Vessel turnaround time has nearly halved. Coastal cargo has grown by 123%. Inland waterways cargo has increased 700% from 18 million metric ton to 145 million metric ton. The number of Indian seafarers has grown by 152%, reflecting our expanding maritime footprint. But growth alone is not our goal. Sustainability is now the core of our maritime strategy. Through Maritime India Vision 2030, Maritime Amritkal Vision 2047, we have set ambitious green target including 60% renewable energy at major port by 2030, carbon neutral ports by 2047, development of green corridor with global partners, establishment of 141 hydrogen and ammonia hub by 2047. Under the National Green Hydrogen Mission, India targets production of 5 million metric ton of green hydrogen annually by 2030, supported by 125 gigawatt of additional renewable capacity. Our ports are being developed as energy hub to support green fuel production and bunkering. Three major ports, Dindal, Paradip, and VOC Dambarana, are being developed as green hydrogen and ammonia hubs. This port have allocated more than 3,900 acres of land to private players for developing green hydrogen project having potential of production of more than 9 million ton of green hydrogen and its derivatives per annum with tentative investment of more than 16 billion US dollar. We are also proud to lead under the IMO's Green Voice 2050 initiative, assisting developing countries in their energy transition. The Green Talk Transition Program has begun phase 1 implementation with 4 major ports procuring green talks between 24 and 27. We have also issued the Harish Sagar Green Port Guidelines and established the National Center of Excellence on Green Ports and Shipping in partnership with TERI in 2022. This collaboration between TERI and MOPSW is a powerful example of research policy partnership deriving real outcome. Today, I am particularly happy to highlight our international green partnership. Under the Next Generation Connect initiative, India and Singapore are exploring a green fuel supply corridor to enable zero-emission maritime routes. This corridor envisions development of green methanol, green ammonia, bunkering infrastructure, along with capacity building of seafarers through Singapore Maritime Energy Training Facility. We have also advanced green shipping corridor discussion with Netherlands, reflecting India's commitment to global maritime decarbonization partnership. At India Maritime Week 2025, sustainability emerged as a dominant theme. Of the total MOUs of worth of rupees 12 lakhs crore, nearly 2 lakhs crore worth of commitment were in the sustainability and green shipping category, signaling strong industry confidence in India's green maritime future. This transformation is possible because Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji has consistently placed sustainability at the center of economic growth. His vision of reform, perform, and transform is visible in our maritime governance reforms, green financing through the Maritime Development Fund, and proactive engagement at the International Maritime Organization. India's maritime strategy today stands on 3 pillars: green growth, global partnership, and future technologies. We are investing in alternative fuels, electrification of port equipments, shore-to-ship power expansion, waste-to-energy system, digital port community platforms, and AI-enabled vessel management system. French maritime transport carries over 90% of global trade. If shipping decarbonizes, the world decarbonizes faster. India, as a leading maritime nation of the global south, is committed to being part of the solution. Our message is simple. Sustainability is not a constraint. It is an opportunity. It is innovation. It is competitiveness. It is resilience. With continued cooperation between institutions like TERI and MOPSW, strong global partnership, and steadfast leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, India is sailing confidently towards a cleaner, greener maritime future. Let us work together for people, for planet, and for shared prosperity. With these few words, I want to conclude. Anyway, I want to just express my heartfelt thankfulness to all of you present here today, because whatever like concern we have expressed by way of participating in this particular important event, it is a commitment to the people of the world that we are to take appropriate climate action to combat the climate change. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, sir, for your insightful and inspiring address. We are truly grateful for your time and for sharing your valuable perspectives with us. Thank you so much, sir. Moving on, as outlined in the agenda, the session will begin with brief framing remarks by the chair, followed by keynote interventions from our distinguished panelists. We will then move into a moderated discussion among the speakers. With that, I invite Mr. R. Rashmi, sir, to kindly take the session forward. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And good afternoon to all of you. We have just heard the Honorable Minister speaking about an important sector of our economy and the steps for decarbonization that the government is taking. In yesterday's inaugural session, I also heard the Honorable Minister for Environment speaking about 4 pillars of transition, and he mentioned in particular the digital technology and governance. And in fact, his idea was carried further by the Vice President of the Republic of Guyana, he spent a lot of time discussing the impact of artificial intelligence. So today in this session, we have basically gathered to discuss the role of emerging technologies in sustainability. So there are 3 dimensions here. Before I request the panelists who have joined me here to speak about, from their perspectives, about the role of technology and the emerging technologies. Just 3 things I wanted to place on the table so that we can invite their ideas and inputs on this. First is that there are technologies of different kinds. We have, in the past, let's say, experimented with clean energy technologies. We have biotechnology, we have green chemistry, we have nanotechnology. These are all technologies which are present in our current experimental domain and also in implementation. But there are new technologies emerging now. We have recently had an AI summit where we would discuss the role of artificial intelligence in future economic transformation. So from the perspective of, or the point of view of transformation, which is the main theme of our conference today, what is the role that these emerging technologies like AI or nanotechnology or Internet of Things, what is it that they can do for us in terms of providing a sustainable solution? Technology is a disruptor. It's a driver of innovation, of course. But at the same time, technology is also an enabler of development. So, and then in many cases now it appears, or it's now coming to light, that the emerging technologies are not very friendly. Sometimes they are not very friendly with environment. They're extremely energy intensive. So how is it that we can reconcile these two and present the technologies of the future as a solution for sustainability crisis that we have? That was the first thing I wanted to pose to the panelists. The second thing is about the ethical and the moral dimension of this, the governance issue. How do we govern, or not exactly regulation, but how do we create an order of governance which ensures that these technologies are used for proper purposes and for transformation, development, and ensuring that there is equity in our growth? And finally, the role of technologies for people who are living in the global south. The global south is the growing part of the world. That's where the energy consumption is growing, energy production is growing, energy use is growing. Can the technology ensure that the global south remains relevant in this, because there are many players here. So we have to ensure that the innovation ecosystem in the global south also grows, while these technologies are applied increasingly for the purpose of development and sustainability. So with this, let me now turn to the panelists who are here to provide us from their knowledge and their wisdom, some of the guiding perhaps the guidance to some of these questions. Of course, you're all free to come with your own perspective about these things. You will not be constrained, but the discipline that we have to follow is that I think we have exactly an hour, just about 60 minutes, and we also would like to give some time to the audience here to come up with their questions. So I think we have about 40 minutes for all 9 or 10 of us. So if you can keep your ideas, present them in 4 to 5 minutes, and then allow the discussion to take place, it will be great. So let me begin with Ms. Ana Claudia Rosbach, who is the Under Secretary General of the United Nations, and she's heading the UN Habitat. So, Madam, from your perspective, what is it that the technologies can do for particularly your sector, Habitat?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Chair. Thank organizers for the honor of being here. It's an excellent gathering to discuss the challenges of the Global South in terms of sustainable development. And representing the UN here, I cannot avoid to think about the tight deadline that we have, 2030, for the Sustainable Development Goals. We are the custodians for SDG 11. So, and within SDG 11, and since you mentioned the Global South, I would like to highlight SDG 11.1, which is access to housing, and also informal settlements. I don't know if it's breaking news, because I think it's common ground or common knowledge that we are living a global housing crisis. And also we have more than 1 billion people living in informal settlements. So we are far away of accomplish this goal, this specific goal. You spoke about transformation, Chair. And I would like to bring technology from the viewpoint of urban transformation. And we are going to have, in the next couple of decades, about 2 billion people coming to cities. 90% is happening in South Asia and Africa. And I heard yesterday from the Minister of Housing, we were together in a panel, another conference, that about 400 million are coming to cities in India. And then when we look at the Global South again, we're talking about cities that already have infrastructure gaps in terms of access to housing, but also sometimes, and many times, access to basic services, connection, mobility, opportunities, and so on. So this is the big challenge. And today we are talking about a world that is facing challenges in relation to environment and climate, disaster prone, more intense disasters, frequent and surprising in surprising places. This is not only affecting the Global South, but what happens here is that, of course, the most vulnerable communities are the ones suffering most from these disasters, conflicts, etc. And we still have poverty, so SDG 1, also many, many challenges to achieve, and inequalities. So in that sense, I only see one way out of that, is that we really are able to be smart about the use of technology. Smart in a sense of supporting cities in planning the land, planning to receive this 2 billion, cities that are already established. I come from Latin America, I come from Brazil. It's a highly urbanized region, but highly segregated, with high prevalence of informal settlements and slums. So using technology to map these vulnerabilities, map these risks, assess these risks, support cities, local governments to address, to have the proper policies, planning policies, managing land, right? Identifying which are the vacant spaces, the opportunities for rebuilding, to promote access to services, water, sanitation, water utilities, without the use of technology, minimize the waste of water, for example, and increase the access in terms of finance, using technology to amplify and increase the reach of microfinance and innovative financial mechanisms. In the realm of building construction, maximize the technologies to build in a more sustainable way. There are a range of aspects that we can and we only will be able to address if we use technology, because what we need is not solutions we already have, we need systemic change. And in this systemic ecosystem for housing and for cities, there are many entry points for technology, as I said, from planning to finance, to land, to construction, etc. In that sense, and to finalize, highlighting one critical flagship initiative from UN Habitat, we are establishing a global data coalition to make sure we are equipped as the UN and we offer as a public good to cities and member states information about the growth of informal settlements, about the opportunities in cities to recycle building environments, to maximize underutilized spaces, and to measure how we are expanding, because we are growing more in territory than in population. This is affecting the environment and affecting cities' revenues, is affecting the social tissue, and so on. So this is one big initiative out of the box, aligned with the perspectives of the UN reform. And the second one is a platform where we bring practitioners together to exchange practices, to form a global coalition. It's the World Urban Forum. It's happening in Baku, Azerbaijan in May, from the 17th to the 22nd, the second largest UN conference. It's a conference that's very different than any other because it's the place where the UN engages with stakeholders, with you, with the local governments, with the thinkers, with the civil society, with the public and private leadership. So I conclude my initial remarks inviting you all to be there, because the urban challenges that we are facing are not minor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. With this, let me go to Mr. Amitabh Kant. Sir, you have been one of the India's well-known public policy experts and practitioners, and you have driven a number of initiatives and reforms in different sectors. So I would like to pose this to you, considering the challenge that the developmental challenges that we have, the sustainability challenges that we have. What is your take on the role of technology here? And do you think it will drive this, or it will take us in some other different direction?
So thank you, Mr. Rashmi, for that question. We are in the midst of probably the biggest breakdown in globalization. We are seeing the decline of global value chains. We are seeing that multilateralism is on a decline. But in the midst of all this, we are also seeing an era of great rise of productivity, largely because of data, machine learning, and the use of artificial intelligence. And make no mistake that we are sitting in this hall at a point of time when the world will see the biggest rise of growth and productivity, despite the breakdown of global supply chains. The challenge is that whether new technology, because it's a general purpose technology which will embed every single sector of the economy and transform almost all sectors. What was physically not possible earlier would today be possible because of your ability to get data on real time and to analyze data on real time. Now, whether we can use this technology to bridge inequality, or will it accentuate and worsen inequality? The biggest beneficiary of the post-World War II global era actually has been the United States of America. If you look around and see, that's the only country which has close to 27% of the global GDP. It has about 48% of the market cap with 4% of the population. Europe actually declined from close to 30% to 14%. But in the United States, while it grew and prospered, it could not build the safety nets, and therefore inequality widened. My view is that artificial intelligence, if it is not multilingual in character, if it is not low bandwidth in character, if it is not open source in character, it will widen inequalities around the world. We have the example of our own digital public infrastructure, where Indians are able to do digital fast payment, they are able to do credit, they are able to do stock markets, they are able to do insurance all on 30 seconds to 30 to 60 seconds on the back of a mobile. It's open source, open API, globally interoperable. So my view is that you need a DPI for artificial intelligence, and this DPI for artificial intelligence actually means that you should be able to provide, you may have talent, you may have skill, you may have data, which India has. India has the data, India has the talent. But it needs you to provide computing power to your researchers, to your young startups, and basically make sure that artificial intelligence is used for the betterment of humanity, is used for the betterment of sustainability, and artificial intelligence is used to provide better inputs for climate. And that would really mean that artificial intelligence is today, tomorrow, used to drive higher rise in productivity, is able to predict disaster conditions of the future, is able to predict floods and cyclones, and is able to guide citizens to a better management of the agricultural and farming crops. Now, if AI is not able to do this, then it is not fit for purpose. And therefore, my view is that artificial intelligence needs to be utilized to transform lives of citizens. It is needed to improve learning outcomes, needed for improving health outcomes, needed for elimination of stunting and wasting, and of course, to ensure better climatic conditions of the future, so that the climate gaps which are accelerating and the climate crisis which is accelerating is not worsened. Because AI is a guzzler of energy. Today, AI guzzles more energy than the country of Japan. And therefore, AI has to be driven on the back of renewable energy. It has to be driven on the back of small modular reactors. But for that to happen, you need upgradation of transmission, you need smartening of grids, and you need to ensure that AI in turns, while AI can worsen divides, while AI can accelerate climatic conditions, a DPI for AI will ensure that AI will actually work for the betterment of climatic conditions, work for the betterment of human society, work for the betterment of sustainability, and that is the only way forward. Without this, AI is not fit for purpose. That is the only way forward. AI must be a bridge for creating equality in society. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for underlining this, that technology that is fit for purpose must be open access to allow access to resources for everyone. You also talked of disruptions in the supply chain. So that brings me to Mr. Ashish Khanna. You are heading the International Solar Alliance, and you are playing a very critical role in dissemination of the existing technologies. Solar is within the reach of all the players at the moment. So how do you see this disruption in the supply chain and the role of the emerging technologies? Can it expand your role, or is going to constrict the existing supply chain?
Thank you so much, Rashmiji, for this. And my apologies to all the fellow dignitaries and the audience for being late. The German State Secretary, along with MNRE Secretary, had an important meeting. I will start off by answering that question by saying that if energy access was the defining problem of the last century, the digital access and the equitable AI will be the defining challenge for 21st century. Most of the emerging countries have managed to get out of energy access, barring largely Africa, which still has 600 million people without energy access. But even there, everyone is realizing that energy is becoming the defining problem for AI, because as we all know that especially in high income countries, it's not the GPUs, but the availability of energy, which is now the defining problem for data centers. But also, as energy is becoming a problem of digital requires energy. So for us in International Solar Alliance, we see the twin aspects of energy and digital are going to get intertwined more and more going forward. Let me give you another example and manifestation of the same. The world did 1,000 gigawatt or close to $1 trillion of solar in just last 2 years. Almost 40% of that is decentralized, meaning either solar rooftop or farmers. That figure is still 15% in India. And therefore, whether it is India or most of the global south, solar has the power of what Mr. Kant was talking about, inclusion. Because of its modular nature, it needs to be decentralized and taken close to people. However, distribution companies and utilities find it very difficult to absorb that energy, and that's where digitization is foundational. Because if you have a distribution utility that digitizes, that looks at new AI models like digital twins, it is able to do weather variability, it is able to absorb the variable renewable energy, it is able to look into millions of consumers who will tomorrow will have rooftop energy absorbed in the system and manage their systems. For this reason, International Solar Alliance has done two things. One is we have launched a global AI mission for energy that does 5 things. Number one, and it was not planned, so I must confess, it goes very nicely with what Amitabh Kant was saying. Sir, as you were saying, we are focusing on interoperability between countries. Because if the UPI, which is a revolution in India, has to be taken to India energy stack for the revolution in energy for future, let it not only be India-based, but entire global south by having the same interoperable standards. Number 2 is about jobs. Today, the electrical engineers do not appreciate the importance of AI that's going to completely disrupt the energy sector. And I must confess, the startups that are working on AI do not understand the contextual aspects of energy sector. So the twain of AI and energy requires skills that is going to generate a lot of new jobs, for which we are launching an ISA Academy. The third is, what are the use cases that today in India, through some startups, are being done at 10% of the cost of West on energy sector, can be replicated to the rest of the world. Because the global south will look at countries like India for not being left behind on digital leapfrogging. Fourth, for a lot of youngsters here, innovation ecosystem is going to be the key. ISA plans to go beyond 70 startups that we have done to actually inculcate a lot of AI and energy across the developing world. And finally, there has to be some blended finance that brings everything together, because the role of public sector finance should be only to leverage private sector by reducing the risk. And all of this must be done to help an average person. The future in 5 years from now will be millions of us will be both producing and consuming electricity and selling electricity to each other on apps as we do DPI energy. That requires a level of digitization that the world will adopt at an alarming pace. The last thing which we are talking about, supply chain, is there is an element of the importance of supply chain diversification that the world needs. Every policymaker from a developed country or developing country I meet, they say we love solar because it's cheapest, but how can I do more of manufacturing? And therefore, the supply chain diversification will be key. What is even more important on this is the technologies of solar PV and lithium-ion batteries that you see today will have lots and lots of competition of newer technologies on storage that are going to come in next 5 years. Therefore, in our view, the key is what will developing world, global south, and everyone else going to do to actually get a toehold in supply chain of new technologies. That could mean different kind of batteries that doesn't exist today, different kind of short, medium, long duration storage solutions. It could mean a very different kind of a solar PV that may not have silicon as one of its ingredients. That's a range of innovation that's happening, and we really believe the world will see a lot more of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khanna, for this idea that the new technologies will play a role in improving this supply chain. We have to identify them and support them. Let me now go to Dr. Charles Ogilvie. And for those of you who don't know, he's an Order of British Empire, OBE. So, and he played a very important key role in the climate, the evolution of the climate decisions at Glasgow. He was part of the, the negotiating and the policy team there. So, Mr. Ogilvie, how do you see this from a policy perspective, and also from, you come from UK and you are now heading an organization called Ocean Energy Pathway. So how do you see this, your past role and the current role?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maaf kijiye, meri Hindi bahut kharab hai. Namaste. Thank you, honourable friends, for the opportunity to speak and for the excellent comments so far. I'm going to approach this question a little bit through the lens of offshore wind, which is an important technology as we go forward. And I'd like to pause before I continue to congratulate India on its leadership in RE. I think the extraordinary target set by Sri Modi for half of your installed capacity to come from renewable energy has been genuinely world leading and inspired many other countries around the world, something that we saw coming out of Glasgow in 2021. So congratulations for your leadership. Also very heartened to see the figures coming out of NITI Aayog presented earlier at this conference, speaking to the huge volume of renewable energy that will be required by India according to its sustainable development plan. And of course, this brings us back to points made earlier on this panel about the sheer power demand from AI compute, that if we're going to genuinely create a multilingual open access model for AI, we'll need to see data center capacity in India grow at an exponential rate in the coming decades. And for that, the whole range of renewable technologies, plus storage, plus massive investments in grid will be necessary in order to make sure that this important strategic AI capacity is delivered. So what role does offshore wind have in this mix? First of all, I think there was about 1 terawatt of capacity for wind power, including offshore wind, in the NITI Aayog numbers for 2070. So far, India has no offshore wind, despite some fantastic ambition from the government. Why is offshore wind great for India? Well, first of all, you have some extremely brilliant wind resource. The south of the country, as many of you will know, has great onshore wind resource, but in fact, the ocean off the south of India has some of the best offshore wind resource in the world. And the World Bank estimates around 170 gigawatts of potential capacity for offshore wind in India. So this can play a really significant part. Offshore wind is also very complementary both to onshore wind and solar in terms of the management of the energy system, because typically offshore you have winds that blow at a different time of day. to the winds onshore. This helps to balance the system. You also have very high capacity factors. That is the amount of time the asset can generate. This gives you more reliable, more firm power generation for your grid, particularly important where you have large industrial loads on the system that require reliable 24-hour power. And finally, there's a huge opportunity here, and this is where innovation comes in, for India to play a role in helping this technology mature. At the moment, we have largely a supply chain based in Europe and in China, and the potential of this technology around the world requires a diversification of that supply chain. Many of you will not be aware that India already exports blades for offshore wind turbines to the European market. And there is a huge opportunity for the supply chain here in India to contribute both to the cost, but also the efficiency and effectiveness of the offshore wind supply chain. Work done by my organization suggests that in the next decade, there could be 8 lakh jobs in Tamil Nadu alone created within the offshore wind supply chain. And on top of that, significant investments in ports. And I would congratulate the Honourable Minister for Ports for his remarks earlier and the ambition shown both for growth but also sustainable development of ports here in India. Again, many of you may not be aware that the Port of Cochin is already building an important vessel for the offshore wind installation fleet globally that will be used internationally. It will be innovation driven in part by AI that enables India to drive those costs down and contribute to the global journey for offshore wind. At Ocean Energy Pathway, we're also very concerned with sustainable development, and the industry and the sector will have an important role to play in a just transition for communities impacted by the climate crisis. For example, we've looked at communities in Tamil Nadu where there is a significant opportunity to reskill into the offshore wind sector. Our organization is currently doing some work on the potential skills pathways supporting the growth of offshore wind. And I think my final point is around the sustainable element of the sector itself. Offshore wind provides the opportunity for the protection of seabed at a massive scale and the regeneration of natural ecosystems. However, this can only be done where there is strong environmental governance placed around these projects, so that the projects can be sited in areas where they can maximize the opportunity for a sustainable and regenerative blue economy, whilst also contributing to the decarbonization of the power system and supporting India's important sovereign ambition within AI. I'll leave my comments there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ogilvy. We have actually 4 representatives from the industry now. So we would like to know their perspective as well. We have heard so far people from the government, the UN, the international organizations. So let's begin with Mr. Naveen Ahlawat, who is the head and president and head of the sustainability and decarbonization in the Jindal Steel Limited. You represent a very important hard-to-abate sector, where technology obviously plays a very important role. So at Jindal, obviously, you will like to explain from your perspective what Jindal is doing. But do you see this possible across the entire economic spectrum? And what is your take on this?
Oh, thanks, Chair, for the question. See, first of all, talking about the sector per se, hard to abate, you rightly said. And there is also a rationale to this why it is hard to abate. If it is the electrons are not able to mitigate, then I think the molecules have to come into play, and that is where the carbon that is inherent to the reaction, the chemical reaction in making steel. We cannot go away with that, but then we can definitely try to avoid, we can try to mitigate or try to reduce this carbon, which is actually an important enabler for us. So how we do it and how the industry is looking at it. So hard to abate, we strongly believe it is definitely a lifetime opportunity for us as Indian manufacturers. For the audience, just to tell you, India is the second largest steel manufacturer. And overall, globally, if we talk about 70% of the steel, it is being manufactured by the conventional blast furnace and BOF routes. Now, when we talk about the per capita consumption of steel in India, it is 96 kilos. as compared to the threshold of 220 kilos, worldwide. And when we really have to compete with US, Japan, their per capita consumption is close to 450 to 500 kilos. So now if we talk about going from 96 kilos to 220 kilos, from 148 million tons today, we have to hit 300 million ton by 2030. So we need to grow. If we have to develop our country, we have to transform this country from developing country to developed country, we have to grow. And when the country has to grow, the steel will go in tandem with the growth of the country. So growth is paramount. And if we have to go for the growth, obviously we have to go for the scalable solution. And when we talk about the scalable solution, the BF and BF route is the conventional steel making process that has to go in along with the future ready technology. So when we talk about the future ready technology, we talk about the electrons going into powering our steel operation. That is super important. And as my fellow colleagues have spoken, I think the electron for us, India has already reached a pinnacle, and that is easiest and the simplest quick win for us, where we can reduce our carbon intensity by close to 25 to 30% by just embracing these electrons to power our operation. So that's one. Second, when we talk about after completing this, the second important step for us as the sector is the focus on the resource efficiency, converting waste into wealth. When we say waste, there are so many waste coming out from the steel operation. Slag is one of them, the blast furnace slag. So that is actually going to cement manufacturing. So that is just a good forward integration for us. Along with that, the electrical slag that is coming out from our electric arc furnaces or basic oxygen furnaces, that we are, basically as a company, and there are other, fellow colleagues as well, we are using this steel slag to make roads. So right now we are busy putting up 2 kilometers of road, where in 2 kilometer road we are using 2 lakh tons of slag that is just a waste just to create these roads. So that is how I think we have to convert this waste into wealth. So that is the second point of it. The third part is about the circularity. For us, there are so many low-hanging fruits. There are so many waste gases going out in the atmosphere, flue gases, high temperature calorie gases just going waste. We can just use those gases to power, to generate electricity via turbines. We can use that. Plus, we can also convert the important molecules, convert these gases into important molecules. One of the example is the basic oxygen gas has got 70% of carbon monoxide that can be used to make ethanol. And that ethanol can go into the market, as a blending fuel. So that is the second part. So as a company, we are focusing on circularity. We are the only company in the world which is capturing 4,000 tons of CO2 per day. So idea right now is to utilize this CO2, use this CO2 to convert into CO, putting this carbon monoxide back into our operation, and also to convert this CO2 into the methanol and ethanol. So that is the second part of it. The last part, it is about the skill development. I think nothing goes, straight if we are not focusing on the skill development, because that is the key. So on the skill side, we are putting so much of efforts in terms of developing our engineers, hiring engineers, and try to train them, because what went well for steel till now may not go well if we don't have the trained manpower. Why trained manpower? Because the conventional way of steel making is not going to go in the future. We need new technologies. When we talk about the technology, the carbon capture utilization, the green hydrogen, the green molecules, injection of electrons into our operation, slags, waste, all these new technologies are going to come, which is going to increase the productivity. The overall cost of production may come down as we move forward. And to drive all these things, we need a skilled manpower. That is where we are focusing on. So I think skilled manpower, resource efficiency, energy efficiency, use of renewable electrons, and once we tick off all these things, then green hydrogen, carbon capture utilization, this according to us is the future for iron and steel sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lawad. That is what you said was really striking, because you have prioritized the kind of technologies which need to be adopted. And thank you for this clarity, because whenever people talk about steel decarbonization, the first thing comes to mind is green hydrogen. But he talked about resource efficiency, he talked about circularity. So these are different things. I mean, you really need to prioritize this. Thank you very much for this take on this. Let me now go to the automotive sector. Mr. Vineet Adarkar, who is the Vice President and Head of the Mercedes-Benz Research and development. Mr. Adarkar, you would like to tell the audience about what Mercedes-Benz is thinking about the emerging technologies. You are really at the frontier of the technology. So how do you see this future playing out for sustainability in the automotive sector?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good to be present amongst all the dignitaries on the stage. And thank you very much, Terry, and the organizers for inviting us. You said it right, yeah, we are on the frontiers, but we have been on the frontiers for 140 years since the time we put a car in the world. And that's when Carl Benz's first invention came into the world in terms of providing mobility between point A to point B. Yeah? And that is basically what we are doing. We are providing mobility from point A to point B. Coming to the part where MBRDI is, and I would talk a little bit from Mercedes-Benz research and development perspective. We are based out of as a headquarters in Bangalore, and we have talent pool across all the sectors, including mechanical engineering as well as the IT and the software topics. Coming to the part that we were all speaking of, which is sustainability, and when it comes to vehicle, all that people can think about is how a vehicle eventually looks like. And what I would currently say is this has become the most important vehicle as of now, because this is the third living space for all of us. We have the first living space, which is basically our home. The second living space is where we work. And the third living space is how we move from the home to the work. And this third living space is what we are trying to reinvent with technology. Coming to parts, which are, I would now categorize it into 4 layers. Being an engineer, forgive me if I'm going very structured, it's a part of my profession, yeah. But if you look at the 4 layers of putting a vehicle on the road, it starts with vehicle engineering in total. And this vehicle engineering from an AI perspective or from a technology perspective, especially for sustainability, we have to look at lightweight engineering. We have to look at ways of making it light and making it comfortable. But from the principles and value that we have learned from our German headquarters in terms of making it safe, making it comfortable, and giving the right kind of an user experience that is eventually required for the user to drive it. And then comes the transformation that we are going through as an industry. We as an industry are going through a transformation from the traditional IC engines that we are known of, it's called the ICE, to a battery electric vehicle as an alternative source of moving the vehicle. And this is where a lot of technological prowess is shown in terms of putting it all together. It is a software-defined vehicle nowadays. It is no more the traditional powertrain that moves it. It's a software-defined vehicle, which is the future of mobility as we see it. And this has a lot of data that is generated through different functions that are operating in the softwares. Yeah. This data has to be used ethically, it has to be used transparently, it has to be analyzed for increasing, let's say, the life cycle of the entire product, but also to make sure that we give the best user experience to the user. Yeah, in the form of, let's say, assisted driver's assistance, which means that autonomous driving is an assisted driving assistant. And this comes because of artificial intelligence, which is what is the data that is analyzed by the car, and it assists the users eventually to make certain decisions on behalf of the users. Of course, we do not have a complete autonomy as of today. Speaking of all this coming through, at MBRDI, we have all the sectors, which means from the talent perspective that our colleagues also spoke about. We in Bangalore, in Pune, we see a lot of talented individuals who are able to contribute to the different segments and different infrastructure needs. Mr. Kant also pointed out, when you have so much of software going in, when you have so much of data being generated by the car, what you also need is a good level of infrastructure. And the design that we do is, of course, very secure, and security takes precedence by design. Yeah, hence designing for sustainability or designing for security becomes very important to us in terms of securing all the data that we collect from the car or from the users. With that, I would pinpoint it only to the question that you have asked, but that's my initial remarks. Thank you.
Thank you for giving your perspective. I'll now request Mr. Sudhir Pathak, who is the Chief Science and Technology Officer of the Hero Future Energies. You're again an important player in the field of energy. So we are hearing or listening to the inputs from different sectors of energy. So from your perspective, energy is a conventional field. Coming from a sector that has been using technology conventionally, and it is a very large player as far as the emissions are concerned. So what do you think, where should we focus on for bringing this transformation, both in terms of reducing the emissions and also improving the sustainability of the solutions?
Thanks, sir. I believe still eyelids are still open, no nappings. Let me give some context to the statement. So we have been living for past several decades, which is in the culture of greed. So the name which I have coined, it is actually like we have been grabbing all the resources. We have been extracting all the resources. We have been eating all the resources, like consuming and then disposing. So it's actually called linear culture, wherein like we are running for the convenience of the people, not for the Mother Earth. And that what has led us to pollution of air, water, everything. And our Mother Earth is right now leading towards ventilator. So I think that is the paradigm shift we have to make into our culture, which is we typically call RRR. So that's not name of the movie, and that's not your short name. It is actually recycle, reuse, reduce, and renew I have added, so because it's a renewable space. So that's the culture which we have to imbibe to make this paradigm shift. Now, how it can happen, how it has been happening. So in the today's world, when you have to get the energy from natural resources, which is solar, wind, and few more things, it is actually very chaotic, very stochastic. It is difficult to control. You don't know when, how much wind will blow to a level of accuracy and solar radiations. So here what I believe the technology has come into play, and it is the right time when AI is there, technology is there, green chemistry is there, nanotechnology is there. So let me take it one by one quickly. So, you know that to control all those items, I will not say control, to align yourself to all those resources, you need to have an IoTs, as you mentioned in the beginning. So to have the data. So just giving a context, for a 500 megawatt of RE project, you every day you generate around 4 to 5 TBs of data in case you have right IoTs in place. So what you do, humanly you can't do anything. Here comes AI and machine learning, wherein this data can be muscled into the AI and it can give you the right controls, the right way to predict what is going to happen in the next moment, wherein you can control your assets, you can sweat your assets, and so you can improve the efficiency of our assets. Coming to what I think Ashish sir was telling about, very wonderful thing, that how we can go beyond what is conventional, like lithium ion and all those stuff. So thankfully the green chemistry which is coming up, is it like sodium ion batteries? I'm aware about few great startups in India, sir. Like, and I'm always very requestful and very helpful that in case there are few core sector startups, not only IT based, because they can open in the room, but the core starters, I've seen several people in India, they are doing it. And they have come up they have cracked the code for the iron air batteries. So that is really wonderful because it's a long duration energy storage. We can't solve everything with lithium ion. We have to go for iron air, zinc air, or even LDES, be it flow battery, because wind is seasonal, it is not perennial. So from that perspective. Second thing is nanotechnology. Again, sir, like about, we are all hearing about perovskites. So they can really debottleneck you from these strongholds of polysilicon mines, which is in hold of one country. So if you are perovskite, you can manufacture it here, you can put it on your wall, you can generate. Only we have to get the stability. How that will be done? Lot of R&D is to be done. We have lot of Indian mindsets, lot of PhD holders sitting in our here and here also. So I think now we are at the right space where all these technologies can come together and make the paradigm shift to a sustainable world. So that's my take. Thanks.
Thank you. Last but not the least, Professor Dev Prasad. We have heard the industry, we have heard the government, we have heard the international organizations. So you represent an academia, the think tank. You are a professor, distinguished professor of in the University of New South Wales, and you have done a lot of work on the net zero transition, net decarbonization. So maybe you will have the last word. Sorry.
One more.
Oh, yes, yes. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
You will not have the last word, but certainly a very
Second last.
important. We have one more speaker.
Yeah.
So, from net zero decarbonization perspective, long term, the technologies which exist, which are commercially being applied, and commercial technologies which are still in the future, which one would you prioritize for the net zero goal?
So we know in many sectors, a lot of these technologies and knowledge exist from buildings point of view, all the solar technologies and ideas about integration and all of that exist. We know about decarbonizing the front end, which is the embodied carbon, for example. We know how to do it. But there are a whole bunch of other things that need to be looked at, and that includes things like support from government at various stages, where risk lies and how to deal with that at various stages. These are all very important. When you have taking an academic university perspective, only 2% of investment at the ideas end of research innovation continuum get commercial returns. So government takes the risk at the front end, and then there is what they call the valley of death, where research projects get parked. Academics or researchers don't get publications, so they don't take it forward because you have to talk to venture capital and other people who are not in their vocabulary. So when it reaches 7, 8, then industry comes in and takes it forward, for example. So I think there is enough technologies, but there are many more to come. AI has been mentioned. We are sitting here, and I'm pretty sure about 50% of the people here might have a level of discomfort from cooling. There is an energy management system in the building which may be overcooling at the moment because it estimates it based on a certain basis. What we are doing at the moment, that's why I'm picking on this, commercializing an add-on module, for example, a new module to the existing system, so that we can add a bit of intelligence on integration between solar, storage, EV, and demand side, especially when peak weather comes. High temperatures are about to come. It pre-prepares buildings and so forth. It's sensitive about occupancy, so it only cools for when people are there and so forth. So we're adding that level of intelligence, and add-ons like that will continue to come to add better, improve on technologies that are already there. Solar, for example, just to conclude, has been mentioned. My university came up with the intellectual property of the PERC solar cells about 30 years ago, and about 85% of world solar at the moment in the market comes from that technology base. If you look at International Energy Agency report, we did not commercialize in Australia at the time. China took big on that, and on the back of that, they are world's largest exporters from that particular technology. But now a whole range of others are coming into play, which will change the dynamics in the future. So to make solar mainstream, it's the production, bringing the cost down. Ultimately, it has to appeal to the consumer. and to appeal to the consumer, there are clear KPIs for them. And in Australia, for example, we went from about 1 or 2 houses around the city to about 4 plus, 1 in 4 plus houses in Australia have solar PV on roofs now. It's the largest per capita in the world, and it happened very quickly. Government had to intervene. Government provided feed-in tariffs, rebates to nudge. Now they're taking it out, all of that. And the nudge has worked to the point where it is mainstreaming in a big way. The demand has grown more than when they had feed-in tariff. So existing technologies need kick at times to take it to mainstream, and new technologies that are plug-in things that bring a level of intelligence so that we can do much better integration than we have been used to.
Thank you, Professor. And the last word now, Mr. Shankaraya, my apology for missing you out. And this is, you represent a sector which we have still not covered: infrastructure, the smart cities, the transportation. So what you represent the Johnson Controls. So what is your take on this? What lies in the future?
Good afternoon to everybody. There is 12 minutes and 49 seconds. Mr. Chair said that he will give 20 minutes to all of you. I will give 10 minutes. I'll take 2 minutes and then explain what has been spoken by all the beloved panelists here. I would first pick from the point what Professor mentioned here. Decades back, or in the 1800s, there used to be analog, which is a thermostat to measure the air conditioning, which was brought by none other than our company founder. Today, from that analog to get to a digital and to an artificial intelligence or an IoT today, the entire ecosystem is measuring energy. The energy consumption of a building, we are sitting inside this room, a building consumes 40% of the energy just from the cooling. And then I'm sure the other elements which are there as lighting and all the aspects. So therefore, from the age-old analog measurement which was happening, today in the last 20, 30, 35 years, we are able to see that it is digitally connected and digitally intelligently looked at today. So you name the equipments as Professor mentioning here, be it from the control, the fire, the security, the surveillance, our movement. If this room has to have 22-degree and a better efficiency to happen, you change from a 22 to 24, there is 1%, 2% efficiencies which are going to come in. So therefore, that efficiency is what we need to be seeing from the energy perspective. And then what is it that it is going to take a shape on the decarbonization journey? We in India and most of the countries, and Sherpa has been expert in talking about it, there is a reduction in terms of the decarbonization journey which is being measured across the world and in India. And there again, between electricity to solar to wind to all the elements today it is connected. And maybe 25 years back, the Silver Jubilee celebration of TERI, T-A-R-I, probably in the last 10 years back, we were probably talking about electricity. It has got E and R, so it is renewable energy being spoken today. So intelligence is going to happen, and I'm sure things are going to be better and safer for this country, be it nanotechnology, be it IoT, and be it the artificial intelligence. Last but not the least, sir, you spoke about interoperability. We as a company, we really focus in terms of the interoperability of all the equipments. If there is anything existing available, try and connect it and not waste that as a product. That's what I would like to end with.
Thank you, Mr. Iyer. And you have given a bright idea that I in Terry stands for intelligence. Thank you very much. So with this, we have come to the end of the initial inputs. We have only 10 minutes left now. So immediately I can't request them to go for a second round of their intervention. But time permitting, we'll do that. So we can throw it open to the House. If you have any questions, please ask now. If you can introduce yourself and then name the panelist, that will be great. I see two hands, one at the back. Gentleman at the back first, then there is a lady in front. Sorry? Oh, now third one. Yeah, okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for such an insightful session, and thanks to all of your dignitaries. I'm a master's student at Terry SAS, and I'm studying climate science and policy advocacy here. Sorry. I've got a question for Dr. Ogilvie. So, you mentioned grid integration, and you talked about, sorry, I'm just checking my notes. I was making notes as you were speaking. So you talked about potential skills pathways. So in scaling these ocean energy technologies from pilot to grid integration, what regulatory and climate policy mechanisms do you believe are most critical to de-risk investment, particularly in emerging economies where energy security, coastal livelihoods, and marine governance intersect?
Thank you. That's a rather long question, but we have noted this. And I'll request the panelists to respond after all the questions are collected.
Sure.
The lady in front here. Microphone to her.
Hello, panelists. I'm Florence Das. I'm an assistant manager in General Steel, and my question is open to the entire panel. While we talk about AI, resource management, LC, and everything, how do the entire panel look at the last man working in the queue, the one who take the maximum hit? For example, the women, the children, the one who does not know about AI. How do we look to reach them, to bring them to this mainstream?
Okay, how will the last man or woman be affected? Two hands here.
Hi, I'm Shreyansh Naik from Parvatibai Chogule College of Arts and Science. I'm a second year BSc student. My question is to Mr. Vineet. Now, as you had mentioned that we are moving towards more software-focused cars and vehicles. So my concern as such is when we see the conventional cars or the cars which have paddles like now for buttons. If we need to switch off, I had heard about this incident in America where there was a fog in front and the guy needed to turn on the fog light.
Kindly formulate your question.
Yeah, but now the fog light, because he wanted to turn it on, he had to go through a whole set of software on the screen. Now, when you are focusing on the road and on the software, it becomes difficult while you are driving. So, isn't moving towards more towards a software-focused car a concern for us instead of paddles?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paritosh. I'm an urbanist working with Niti Aayog. My question is to Anna Claudia Rosbach. I just want to know how the future urban technologies can be governed to ensure they advances equity and sustainability, not just efficiency.
Equity and sustainability. Yes, I think maybe this will be the final question. Two more? Where can you see them? Oh, there are two more.
Hello, I'm Ruchika. My question is to Amitabh, sir. Sir, given the fact that over 90% of our labor force is currently employed in the informal sector, and since you pointed out the income inequality and the adverse effect that AI could have on income inequality, or it could worsen or accentuate it, what do you think? Shouldn't we be also including the accessibility component when we are discussing energy and technology?
Okay, accessibility of technology. The two hands were there at the back. I think we will stop there now. Please take the mic there.
Hello, I'm Bhavya. I'm a third year data science student at Terry SAS. My question is for Amitabh, sir. So you mentioned that AI will widen inequality unless it is open source, multilingual, and accessible. So should computing power now be treated as digital public infrastructure like UPI to ensure that AI productivity benefits every citizen and not just large corporations?
Thank you. Thank you.
During the session, there has been a mention of offshore.
Kindly introduce yourself.
My name is Parthapatim Das. I'm a C-suite advisor. I head a consulting firm by the name PGI Associates based in Delhi, which is in the space of policy advocacy, technology transfer, market entry, market research. During the session, there was a mention of offshore interfaces in terms of wind, and solar can also overlap that. The point is, in Indian context, we have gone for floating solar panels.
Kindly be brief with your question, because we are running out of time now.
In the inland space, but will it be applicable for, in the Indian context, in the offshore space, in collaboration with the wind, because of, in the Bay of Bengal, we have frequent annual incidents of cyclones as well as tsunamis occur in 5 or 6 years. So in that scenario, where the height is being obtained by the wind interfaces, but not the solar one in terms of solar panel, do you think that is feasible in India, in the context of India?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. With this, I think we'll close the questions. I hope the panelists have remembered where the questions have come from, but I could see at least 2 or 3 of them directed to Mr. Amitabh Kant, Mr. Ogilvy, and Vineet, of course. But I'll give this opportunity to each one of you, and to begin with you, sir.
So I've been a long-term believer that whatever we do in terms of technology, we must ensure that it should be equitable and should be inclusive. I was speaking about DPI for AI in the context of our own experience. What India has demonstrated is that open source, open API, globally interoperable models make a difference to community and make it accessible to everyone. We were able to do 1.5 billion digital identities, and then between 2015 to 2017, we opened 550 million bank accounts. At that point of time, only 18% of the women had bank accounts. In India today, 91% of the women have a bank account. And then we seeded them with Aadhaar and mobile number, which enabled everyone in India to do digital fast payments, get credit, take insurance. When I was a young officer, it used to take us 6 months of paperwork to do. So what the Bank of Indian International Settlement said, that India could achieve in 7 years what it would have taken 50 years to achieve. And the cost of acquisition of a customer fell from $30 to less than 15 cents in India, because there was no paperwork involved. And that is why a company like Reliance Jio could acquire 510 million customers in 9 to 10 months flat. Now that is because we created the digital public identity layer, but on top of that, we allowed the private sector to compete and innovate. And that's very important to understand, that innovation comes from private sector. Government doesn't do innovation, but government created the digital identity layer. On top of that, Paytm competed with Google Pay, PhonePe competed with Amazon Pay, everyone competed and they innovated. And that's how we were able to make technology accessible and we were able to make it inclusive at extremely low cost. And that is why everyone in India was able to use digital public infrastructure. When I was talking about digital public infrastructure for AI, this is exactly what I meant. Look at the extent of computing power being used by OpenAI in the United States. They are talking about their recent deal with NVIDIA is for 10 gigawatt of energy, which means 5 million latest NVIDIA GPUs of Blackwell being used by OpenAI. The race is for computing power. The race is for winner take all. And winner takes all means great inequality in society. And therefore, my belief is that the race for AI has just begun. Race is never won by the initial drivers of growth. In history of technology shows you that Clive Osborne did the first laptop. He went bust. It was won by Apple. The laptop race was later won by Apple. Alta Vista did the first internet. They didn't win the race, it was won by Google. So my suggestion is that the world will require less computing power, but more sophisticated software. The world will require more open source technology in AI. The world will require a greater amount of multilingual models, and the world will require low bandwidth for AI to spread to every single man. The world will require AI to improve climatic conditions, but the world will also require AI to improve learning outcomes and health outcomes. That's the only way to make AI really serve humanity. The end objective of AI should not be to create inequality, but to serve humanity, to create a more equitable society. That's my view.
Thank you, Mr. Kant. Ms. Rosbach, there was one question for you about...
Yeah, so very briefly...
you want... anyway, please go ahead.
Sorry, very briefly on the policy required for building out offshore wind. This is a major infrastructure endeavor, unlike other RE technologies that can be scaled up from small installations. And the amount of policy and regulation required to attract investment, in answer to your question, but also to protect public and social good, is very significant. This is not just about offtake mechanisms and seabed licensing. This is about skills, training, ports and infrastructure planning, environmental permitting and protection. And this is one of the reasons why Ocean Energy Pathway exists, to help provide this kind of assistance in policy development. There was a second question about cyclones. There's a significant installation of offshore wind in China, which is cyclone proofed and has many run-hour track record of being able to manage very severe weather conditions. I don't know about floating solar. I will go away and do some homework. Thank you.
There was a question about equity and the impact on women and the vulnerable people. Would you like to address that?
And the use of technology for sustainability. Yeah, I have 4 words. One that I captured from many of the speakers: governance. It will be a key aspect at all levels. And in response to your point, I would say multilateralism will be critical. We have the global agendas where the global agreements are taken, and for me, this is a critical component for an outcome, as Mr. Kant was just mentioning. And then the third word is everything we do needs to be people-centered. And then finally, the Agenda 2030, the 2030 agenda talks about leave no one behind. So we just have to follow that.
Vineet, there was a small question for you.
Yeah, and it was regarding an incident which I am unfortunately not aware of, but I would say from a software perspective, the software itself is quite intuitive. There are some active systems in place which the software takes in general, like an active brake assist, where there is a sensor which is right across your vehicles, and all those sensors are working in tandem to make sure that when the driver himself or herself, whoever is driving the car, is not attentive enough, the car can take over at that particular point in time. So that is one part of the software. The other part you mentioned about the user interface, in terms of how the user interface you have to dive in. But there are different topics that are currently ongoing. With a machine learning capability that you have with the software, you can the user can train the software which is in the car as well. And there is a concept which is also in our cars, which is called as a base layer concept. And the base layer basically means that wherever you are using, suppose you play a particular music playlist every day, that will pop up on your main screen, and that basically forms a part of your base layer, which means that, and you change your car and your wife comes or somebody else comes from your own family, and you have a user interface and you have a profile already generated with it, it adapts to you, basically. So software actually makes it very intelligent in terms of the way you interact and the experience that you get to it, and then it can put it at different levels so that you eventually are able to use it faster and communicate faster with, and have an interface which is faster in general.
Thank you very much, Vineet. With this, we have come to the end of this session. I would have loved other panelists to speak and respond to the questions, but since the screen is telling us that the time is up, we must accommodate and give them their way. So I would, instead of attempting to summarize what has happened or what has been discussed, the only one word which I picked up was people-centric, and the digital access and the open access. So there is absolutely no doubt that technologies of the future, even the existing ones, are going to help us optimize our production and consumption systems. It's no brainer. I mean, technologies of the future will certainly improve our efficiency. But the key word is that they need to remain anchored in equity. They must allow open access to everyone so that the technology becomes accessible to everyone and our future remains sustainable. Thank you very much. With this, let's give a big round of applause to the panelists. And thank you very much for giving your time and attention. And thanks to the panelists for a very insightful discussion and excellent ideas. Thank you very much, sir.
A heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers for their invaluable insights, and to our delegates for shaping such a dynamic, forward-thinking conversation. Thank you so much. We will reconvene here after at 4:30 p.m. for the next session, which is on high-level ministerial segment, multilateralism as a force for hope and impact. Meanwhile, everyone can have tea and coffee, which is being served at the back side of the hall. May I request everyone to kindly join us on time. Additionally, may I request everyone